He found her on her knees beside his daughter's bed at 3 in the morning, a blood pressure monitor in one trembling hand and her phone in the other, recording everything. Phil Broker froze in the doorway of the penthouse suite, his briefcase still in his grip from the red-eye flight. The maid, this girl he'd barely noticed in 3 weeks, looked up at him with tears streaming down her face and terror in her eyes. "Mr. Broker," her voice cracked, "your daughter's heart rate just dropped to 45 beats per minute. After that smoothie. This is the 4th time this week." She held up her phone, the timestamp glowing in the dark. 2:47 a.m. Someone is killing her. And I can prove it. 2 years. That's how long Phil Broker had been watching his daughter die. 2 years of flying specialists in from Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, and Geneva. Men and women with credentials that filled walls, shaking their heads with expensive sympathy. 2 years of experimental treatments that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. 2 years of watching his 9-year-old girl fade a little more each day while he built hotels and chased deals across 3 continents. And not one of them could tell him why. Lillian had been sick since she was 7. It started small, fatigue, stomach pain, episodes they called flare-ups. Then it got worse. The confusion, the vomiting, the kidney pain that made her cry in the middle of the night while Phil was in Singapore or Dubai or London. Because Phil had already lost Lillian's mother. Elena died in a car accident 3 years ago. And every time Phil looked at his daughter, he saw his wife's ice blue eyes staring back. He couldn't lose them both. So he tried everything. He hired the best doctors. He spent millions. He trusted Ms. Chen, the wellness consultant who'd promised to dedicate her life to Lillian's care when everyone else had given up. He prayed prayers that felt like they disappeared into hotel ceilings in cities whose names he could barely remember. Nothing worked. And then Haley Morrison walked onto the executive floor, a quiet hotel made from Brooklyn carrying a promise made at her mother's grave 3 years ago. Never stay silent again. Not when a life is on the line. Because sometimes the truth doesn't come from the people with degrees framed on their walls. Sometimes it comes from the person nobody sees. Before we get deep into the story, please let me know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you're hooked in and ready to enjoy the story, because tomorrow I have another beautiful story to share with you and I don't want you to miss it for anything. Now let's get into the story. The subway from Brooklyn to Midtown Manhattan took 43 minutes. Haley counted every one of them, her mother's voice echoing in her head like it had for 3 years. Trust your gut, baby girl. Even when they tell you you're nobody. The Broker Hotel rose 68 stories above 5th Avenue, all glass and steel and money. Haley had cleaned hotel rooms since she was 19, ever since dropping out of community college when her mother got sick, ever since the doctors dismissed her concerns as anxiety from an uneducated family and sent them home with antacids. Her mother was dead 6 weeks later. Kidney failure they'd missed because nobody listened to the girl who cleaned their offices at night. She'd made a promise at that graveside. Never again. Ms. Rodriguez met her in the service elevator, clipboard in hand, eyes sharp. You're assigned to the penthouse floor. The Broker family. Father travels constantly. 20 days a month, sometimes more. Daughter is very ill. Ms. Chen, the wellness consultant, runs everything up there. You understand. Haley nodded. Do your job. Stay invisible. Don't ask questions. Rodriguez's expression softened slightly. The last girl got too attached. It didn't end well for her. The penthouse stretched across the entire 68th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan like a postcard, but the air inside felt heavy, sterile. Hospital equipment lined the hallways. Oxygen tanks, for poles, monitors that beeped softly in distant rooms. This wasn't a home. It was a medical wing wrapped in $10 million of real estate. Lillian's bedroom door was cracked open. Haley saw her before the girl saw her. A tiny thing drowning in white sheets, pale blonde hair spread across silk pillowcases. Prescription bottles crowded the nightstand. Haley started counting automatically. 15, 20, 23. Then Lillian's eyes opened. Ice blue like winter sky. Desperate. "Are you the new maid?" Her voice was so small. "Will you stay?" Something in Haley's chest cracked. She stepped inside, her cleaning supplies suddenly feeling absurd in her hands. "Yeah, sweetheart. I'm Haley. I'm staying." Lillian clutched a worn teddy bear tighter. The last one left without saying goodbye. "Do you think being sick hurts forever?" The question hung in the expensive air. Before Haley could answer, a screen on the wall flickered to life. A man's face appeared, exhausted, salt and pepper hair, expensive suit, phone pressed to his ear even on the video call. "Lillian, sweetheart, Daddy's sorry. London meetings ran late. I'll be home soon. I promise." The girl's face didn't change. She'd heard this before. Haley looked around the beautiful room and felt her stomach turn. Something was very wrong here. And she'd promised her mother she'd never stay silent again. The pattern revealed itself in the first week, but Haley didn't trust it until the second. Every morning at 8 o'clock sharp, Ms. Victoria Chen would glide into Lillian's room like she owned it. Polished. Sophisticated. Ivy League degrees framed on the penthouse walls. Cornell, Stanford, certifications Haley couldn't even pronounce. She carried a tall glass filled with thick liquid, green or purple depending on the day. "Your special vitamins, darling. Drink every drop." Lillian would drink. Chen would watch. And by 10 o'clock the girl would be destroyed. Vomiting that left her shaking. Confusion that made her forget Haley's name. Heart racing so fast Haley could see it pounding in her thin chest. Abdominal pain that made her curl into a ball and cry. Every single time. Chen's response never varied. Practiced concern. Gentle touches. "It's the disease progressing, sweetheart. Your body is rejecting the treatment. This means it's working." But on day 9 something changed. Lillian refused the smoothie. "It tastes like that stuff Dad puts in the car in winter." Chen's face flashed something dark, rage, maybe fear, before the mask slid back into place. "Darling, you need to drink." "I don't want it." Chen left the glass and disappeared. That day, Lillian sat up for the first time in Haley's presence. Did homework. Asked questions. Her color looked better. Her eyes looked clearer. "Can we go outside?" she whispered. "Just for a minute." The hotel's roof garden was 68 stories above the city. Glass enclosed, temperature controlled. Lillian touched the flowers like they were made of magic. "I forgot what outside feels like." That's when Chen found them. "What do you think you're doing?" Her voice was ice wrapped in silk. "Lillian needs complete rest. Taking her outside was reckless and inappropriate." She turned to Haley, smile sharp as broken glass. "You're just the maid. Stay in your lane." But Haley had already seen too much. That night in her Brooklyn studio, she opened her phone's notes app and started documenting. Day 1 through day 14. 8 a.m. smoothie. 10 a.m. crisis. The one day Lillian refused. The one day she'd been okay. Her hands were shaking as she typed the final line. This isn't illness. This is poisoning. Her mother's voice whispered in the dark. Trust your gut, baby girl. And Haley's gut was screaming. Haley found the notebook on day 17, wedged into the box spring under Lillian's bed while reaching for a dropped cleaning cloth. Small, spiral-bound, with a faded unicorn on the cover. She almost put it back. Privacy mattered even for children. Then she saw the date on the first page. 2 years ago. The handwriting started neat, careful loops and careful letters. By the middle of the notebook, it was shaky. By the end, barely legible. Day 412. The smoothies make my stomach burn, but Ms. Chen says that means they're working. I don't think that's true. Haley's throat tightened. Day 498. Heard Ms. Chen tell Dad I'm declining on schedule. What schedule? Is there a schedule for dying? Her hands started shaking. Day 512. She was on phone saying, just a few more months. I think she means until I die. Dad won't believe me. He's never here. Maybe that maid Haley will notice. She actually looks at me. The notebook slipped from her fingers. This child had been documenting her own murder, writing it down in careful, heartbreaking detail because no one else was paying attention. Because her father was building hotels in Singapore while his daughter counted down the days until someone poisoned her to death. That night, Haley couldn't sleep. She sat on her studio apartment floor with her laptop, searching symptoms. Vomiting, confusion, kidney pain, heart arrhythmia, sweet taste children might not recognize, ethylene glycol poisoning, antifreeze. The pieces clicked together like bones breaking. She called Marcus at 2 in the morning. He'd worked in the hospital lab since they were in high school together, back when they both thought they'd become doctors someday. Before life got expensive and dreams got small. I need you to test something, Haley whispered into the phone. I can't explain yet. But Marcus, a child's life depends on it. Silence on the other end. Then, what do you need? A sample. Just a sample. Can you tell me what's in it? Haley, what are you involved in? She looked at Lillian's diary, still open on her lap. Day 512. Maybe that maid Haley will notice. Something I should have noticed 2 weeks ago. Now she just had to get that smoothie sample without Chen realizing. Without cameras catching her. Without losing the only job keeping her siblings fed. But her mother's voice was clear. Some things are worth more than safety, baby girl. Some things are worth everything. Chen's routine was precise as clockwork. Every day at 2 p.m., she'd leave for personal training in the hotel's executive gym. 60 minutes. Never a minute less, never a minute more. Haley waited by the service elevator, watching Chen step inside in designer athletic wear, yoga mat under her arm. The doors closed. Haley counted to 30, then moved. The master keycard felt like fire in her pocket. Hotel maids had access everywhere. Security trusted invisibility. She slipped into the penthouse medical closet, heart hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. Chen's supply cabinet sat in the corner. Unlocked. Arrogant assumption that no one would dare look. Inside, rows of expensive bottles lined the shelves. Wellness supplements. Proprietary blends. Labels that said everything and nothing. One bottle sat apart from the others. Haley unscrewed the cap with shaking hands and nearly gagged. Sickeningly sweet. Chemical. Wrong. She photographed everything with her phone. The bottles, the labels, the sickeningly neat arrangement. Then she used a medicine dropper to extract a small sample into a clean bottle she'd brought from home. Her hand shook so badly she almost dropped it. That's when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Chen. Back early. Haley dove into the supply closet, pulling the door almost closed, leaving just a crack to see through. Her heart was going to give her away. It was too loud. Too fast. Chen entered the medical closet, phone pressed to her ear. I told you, just a few more months. The kidney function is at 35%. Right on schedule. She paused at her supply cabinet, eyes narrowing. Checking. Suspecting. But everything looked untouched. Chen left. Haley waited 10 minutes before moving, legs shaking so badly she could barely stand. 2 days later, Marcus called. His voice was tight, scared. Haley, this sample has ethylene glycol. That's antifreeze. Lethal to a child in repeated doses. You need to call the police now. I can't. What do you mean you can't? She'll claim contamination. Question chain of custody. Make me look like a crazy maid with a grudge. Haley's throat was tight. I need more. I need the why. The why doesn't matter when a kid's dying. But it did matter. Because without motive, Chen would walk. And Lillian would die anyway. That night, Haley started searching for Phil Broker's will. Some truths required evidence even money couldn't ignore. Phil's home office was all dark wood and leather. Walls lined with photos of hotels he'd built across 3 continents. His wife smiled from a silver frame on the desk. Blonde, radiant, holding a newborn Lillian. The photo was covered in fingerprints, like he touched it constantly. The will sat beside it, yellow sticky notes marking pages. He'd been reviewing it recently. Haley's hands shook as she turned to Section 7. To Victoria Chen, $3 million in recognition of her extraordinary dedication and selfless sacrifice in attempting to preserve my daughter's life, should that tragedy occur. The date at the bottom made her stomach drop. 3 years ago. 8 months after Elena Broker's car accident. Right when Lillian first got sick. She photographed every page with trembling hands, the pieces falling into place like a nightmare assembling itself. Elena dies. Phil drowns in grief and guilt. Chen appears, offering to dedicate her entire life to Lillian's care. Becomes indispensable. Then Lillian mysteriously gets ill. Phil, desperate and traveling constantly, trusts Chen completely. Updates his will to take care of the woman sacrificing everything. Chen poisons Lillian slowly while documenting heroic efforts. Ensures the payout. $3 million for watching a child die. Lillian was worth more dead than alive. Haley tried approaching Phil the next morning in the hotel lobby. He was surrounded by executives, phone pressed to his ear, briefcase in hand. Miami meeting. Always another city, another deal, another reason to be anywhere but home. Mr. Broker, I need to talk to you about Lillian. He barely looked at her. Ms. Chen handles Lillian's care. She's been a godsend. I don't have time for this. But sir, I think something's wrong. Are you a doctor? His voice was sharp, exhausted. Do you have medical credentials? Because Ms. Chen has degrees from Cornell and Stanford. She's not just qualified, she's dedicated. My daughter would be dead without her. He walked away. Disappeared into a black car with tinted windows. Haley stood in the lobby, surrounded by marble and money, feeling smaller than she'd ever felt in her life. Who was she? A maid from Brooklyn who cleaned toilets and made beds. A girl who couldn't even finish community college. Who was she to accuse someone with Ivy League degrees? That night in her studio apartment, she stared at the evidence on her phone. The will. The lab results. Lillian's diary. Her mother's voice whispered from 3 years ago. They didn't listen to me either, baby girl. But you have to try anyway. Some promises are kept in graveyards. Some choices cost everything. Haley made hers. Chen was watching. Haley noticed it first in the way she'd appear. Suddenly, silently, in corridors where she shouldn't be. Outside Lillian's room when Haley was cleaning. In the service elevator when Haley was alone. Always with that perfect smile that never reached her eyes. You seem very invested in Lillian's care, Chen said one afternoon, blocking the hallway. Is there something about hotel housekeeping that's unclear to you? The threat was wrapped in silk, but it was a threat. That night, Haley studied the penthouse layout. Cameras everywhere. Hallways, living areas, Lillian's room. Everywhere except the bathrooms. Privacy laws, even for billionaires. The next day, while cleaning Lillian's bathroom, Haley locked the door and knelt beside the tub where the girl was supposed to be bathing. Lillian, listen to me carefully. You're not crazy. You're not sick. You're being poisoned. The girl's ice blue eyes went wide with terror and something else, relief. I knew something was wrong, she whispered. I knew it. I'm going to save you. But you have to pretend everything is normal. Can you do that? Lillian nodded, clutching Ellie the bear tighter. You're the only one who believes me. 2 days later, Ms. Rodriguez called Haley into her office. Ms. Chen has expressed concerns about your inappropriate attachment to the broker child. She's recommending reassignment. I'm just doing my job. Your job is cleaning, not playing nurse. Consider this a warning. When Phil returned from Tokyo, Haley found him in the underground parking garage at midnight. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks, tie loose, eyes hollow. Mr. Broker, please. Your daughter. Stop. His voice cracked with exhaustion and rage. My daughter is dying despite the best care money can buy. Do you think I haven't tried everything? Do you think I don't lie awake every night wondering what I'm missing? He turned on her, grief making him cruel. Don't make this harder than it already is. He drove away. Left her standing under fluorescent lights that hummed too loud. On the subway back to Brooklyn, Haley cried. Let the tears fall while strangers pretended not to see. She was losing. Chen was winning. Lillian was dying. And nobody would listen to a maid from Brooklyn who cleaned rooms and made beds. Her mother's voice cut through the despair. Trust your gut, baby girl. Always. Even when it costs everything. Haley wiped her face. Pulled out her phone. Started planning. She needed undeniable proof. The kind even grief and money couldn't ignore. She needed to catch Chen in the act, document everything, force the truth into light regardless of what it cost. Even if it cost her everything. Some children were worth burning your whole life down to save. Phil left for Singapore on a Tuesday. Haley watched his car disappear into Manhattan traffic and felt her stomach drop. 3 days. Chen would have Lillian alone for 3 days. The evening smoothie came at 7 p.m. Purple this time, thick as paint. Chen stood over Lillian's bed with that practiced smile. Drink every drop, darling. By 9 p.m., Lillian was in crisis. Haley heard the screaming from 2 floors down. She took the service stairs 3 at a time, burst into the penthouse to find Lillian curled in a ball, crying with pain. Her face was gray. Her breathing shallow and fast. Chen was on the phone, voice calm as death. "Yes, Dr. Stevens. Just the disease progressing. No need to come tonight." She hung up, saw Haley in the doorway. "I have this under control. She needs a hospital. She needs rest. Leave us." Haley left. But she didn't go far. At 2:30 in the morning, she used her master keycard one last time. The blood pressure monitor from the hotel medical kit felt heavy in her shaking hands. She slipped into Lillian's room like a thief. The girl was barely conscious. Haley wrapped the cuff around her thin arm, pressed record on her phone, and watched the numbers that would either save a life or end her own. Heart rate, 45 BPM. Blood pressure, 80/40ths. Timestamp, 2:47 a.m. She filmed everything. Lillian's gray face. The purple residue in the glass on the nightstand. The prescription bottles that meant nothing because the real poison came in smoothies. "Am I dying tonight?" Lillian whispered, her voice so small it barely carried. Haley's throat closed. "Not if I can help it, sweetheart." She was still recording when she heard footsteps. Heavy. Male. Wrong time, wrong floor. Phil Broker walked into his daughter's bedroom at 3:15 in the morning, briefcase still in hand, jet-lagged from a flight that arrived 6 hours early. He froze in the doorway. Haley looked up at him from her knees beside his daughter's bed. Blood pressure monitor beeping. Phone recording. Tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Broker." Her voice cracked. "Your daughter's heart rate just dropped to 45 beats per minute. After that smoothie. This is the 4th time this week." She held up her phone. The timestamp glowed in the dark. 2:47 a.m. Someone is killing her. And I can prove it. What the hell are you doing in my daughter's room at 3 in the morning? Phil's voice was raw with fury and fear. He dropped his briefcase, moving toward Haley like she was a threat. "Look at her." Haley didn't move from her knees. "Really look at your daughter." Phil's eyes finally shifted to Lillian. Gray-faced, barely breathing, small body trembling under expensive sheets. His face went white. "She's been like this for hours," Haley said. "Since the smoothie at 7 p.m. Just like she's been every time Ms. Chin gives her those vitamins. The smoothies are medicine. They're poison." Haley held up her phone. "I have videos. Timestamps. A pattern going back 4 weeks. Every smoothie, every crisis. Watch." She showed him everything. Videos of Lillian vomiting, confused, crying with pain. The timeline documented in her notes app. Lab results from Marcus confirming ethylene glycol. Photos of Chen's supply cabinet with that sickeningly sweet bottle. Phil's hands shook as he scrolled through the evidence. "There's more," Haley whispered. She pulled out Lillian's diary from her pocket. "Your daughter's been documenting this for 2 years." Phil took the notebook like it might burn him. His eyes moved across the pages, his daughter's handwriting getting shakier with each entry. When he reached day 512, his face crumbled completely. "I heard Ms. Chen saying, 'Just a few more months.' Dad won't believe me. He's never here. Maybe that maid Haley will notice. She actually looks at me. Oh God." His voice broke. "Oh God, Lillian. There's one more thing." Haley showed him the photos of his will. Section 7. $3 million to Victoria Chen upon Lillian's death. The timeline clicked into place behind his eyes. Elena's death. Chen's convenient appearance 8 months later. Lillian getting sick. The will update. 2 years of systematic poisoning while he built hotels and signed checks and trusted the wrong person because grief had made him blind. I signed her death warrant. He was whispering now, tears streaming down his face. Elena died in that car, and I've been so buried in guilt and hotels that I hired someone to kill our daughter. What would she think of me? What would Elena? Where's Chen? Haley cut through his spiral. Asleep. Guest suite. Then we're leaving. Right now. Hospital. We don't wake her. We don't tell her. We just go. Phil moved on instinct, years of executive decisions kicking in through the grief. He lifted Lillian carefully, his daughter barely weighing anything in his arms. Service elevator, Haley said. Underground garage. I know all the back ways. For once, invisibility would save a life instead of hiding one. They moved through the service corridors at 3:45 in the morning like ghosts. Haley led them through back hallways she'd cleaned for months. Past laundry rooms and kitchen storage, places where invisible people worked while the wealthy slept above. Phil carried Lillian against his chest, her head on his shoulder, Ellie the bear clutched in her small hand. In the underground garage, Manhattan city lights filtered through concrete, painting everything in amber and shadow. Daddy! Lillian's voice was barely a whisper. Where were you? Phil's face crumbled as he buckled her into the back seat. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. But I'm here now. I promise I'm here now. They raced through empty streets, traffic lights blinking yellow, the city holding its breath. Presbyterian Hospital's ER entrance blazed with harsh fluorescent light. Phil burst through the doors, Lillian limp in his arms. My daughter has been poisoned with antifreeze for 2 years. Dr. Sarah Kim's face shifted from professional skepticism to horror as Haley showed her phone. Videos, timestamps, lab results, the evidence that wouldn't stop screaming truth. Get me toxicology, nephrology, poison control. Now. They took Lillian on a gurney, her small body disappearing behind trauma bay curtains. Haley stood with Phil in the waiting area, both of them shaking, while doctors ran tests that would either save a life or confirm they were too late. Dr. Kim returned 20 minutes later, face grim. Chronic ethylene glycol poisoning. Stage 3 kidney damage. If you'd waited another month, we couldn't have saved her kidney function. She paused. You got her here just in time. Phil's knees buckled. Haley caught him. Meanwhile, 5 a.m. light crept across the penthouse 68 floors above the city. Chen woke to silence. Wrong silence. She walked to Lillian's room and found the bed empty. She knew immediately. Her packing was efficient. Designer bags, passport, cash she'd hidden in the medical closet. She was halfway to the elevator when hotel security stepped out of the shadows. Ms. Chen, Mr. Broker asked us to make sure you stayed. Police arrived 10 minutes later with a warrant. Chen's mask finally dropped. Not fear, just cold calculation. I earned that money. Her voice was ice. 2 years of playing nursemaid to a spoiled brat while her father built hotels across 3 continents. She was an investment. A retirement plan. She looked at the officers with something like contempt. If that maid had stayed invisible like she was supposed to, this would have worked perfectly. The handcuffs clicked shut, and 68 floors below, in a hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and second chances, a little girl opened her eyes and asked for her father. This time he was there. 6 months transformed everything. Lillian's hospital room evolved from ICU machines and fear to recovery ward hope to discharge papers signed with shaking hands. Dialysis 3 times a week. Chelation therapy pulling poison from small veins. Kidney function climbing slowly. 40%. 50, 65. Every percentage point a miracle. Phil never left. Board meetings happened via video from her bedside. Hotel openings got postponed. He learned what his daughter's laughter sounded like, what her favorite stories were, how she liked her toast cut into triangles. Hotels can wait, he told his stunned executives. She can't. Haley visited daily. First after cleaning shifts, then after nursing school classes. Phil had insisted on paying tuition. You saved her life. Let me help save your future. Chen's trial lasted 3 weeks. Attempted murder, child endangerment, fraud. 25 years to life. No parole. The media storm was relentless. Billionaire's daughter saved by hotel maid. But Haley deflected every interview. I just did what anyone should do. I listened. Present day, the roof garden bloomed 68 floors above Manhattan. Lillian ran in short bursts, building stamina, blonde hair flying, Ellie the bear tucked under her arm. Her laughter echoed off glass walls. Phil sat on a bench with Haley, not employer and employee anymore, but family forged in crisis. I created the Elena Broker Memorial Scholarship. Full ride for healthcare workers from underserved communities. Your mother would have qualified. First recipient graduates next year. Haley wore nursing school scrubs now. 4.0 GPA. Pediatric care specialization. Haley. Watch me. Lillian did a cartwheel. Wobbly but determined. Phil watched his daughter, truly seeing her for the first time in years. Elena would be proud of us. That evening, Haley visited her mother's grave in Brooklyn. I kept the promise, Mom. I didn't stay silent. I trusted my gut like you taught me. On the subway home, her phone buzzed. Text from Lillian. Love you, Haley. You're my hero. The next morning in nursing class, the professor asked, How do you speak up when you think something's wrong? Haley's hand rose, confident now, transformed. You remember that silence has a cost, and that your voice matters, even when everyone tells you it doesn't. Especially then. Because sometimes salvation wears a uniform. Sometimes truth comes from margins. And sometimes one person refusing to stay invisible changes everything. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely enjoy the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out.